Thank you. Welcome, and thank you all for attending this evening. The first thing I need is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Thank Judy and Katie. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I don't think there was any public comments, and I didn't receive any either. So the first thing is just the general bond wording.
Yeah.
Are you
Why don't you let
gonna
Steve and I
take
give a
that?
little preamble
Sure.
to what we're really acting on tonight. The items that you're seeing in front of you this evening are things that you've seen throughout the summer. It's really been the purpose for our extra meetings each month that we've been doing for the last several months. Really, this is kind of the point where we make the decisions on the final resolutions that identify the bonds for the capital projects, the one for exceeding the revenue caps, and then a third resolution that really puts this on the election and approves this to move forward to the electorate for consideration this fall on November 8th. So some of the things that we're looking at is obviously the language here is things that are written up by our bond counsel to make sure that these align with all of the provisions of legally that we need to put forth. There are certain requirements we have for posting for the public, of which Steve and Allie have shared with Rebecca, and they're working together on moving those pieces forward. So this evening we have those items in front of us, and then once you've addressed those, we'll talk a little bit about some of our communication plan coming forward, particularly kind of our first iteration with the community and a postcard that will just kind of get people thinking about what's to come in the next few months. So Steve, I'm going to let you kind of take it from there and walk us through these items and a little bit of some of the things that we can expect as we look at the facilities and budget committee moving forward as well.
Thank you, Randy. So the agenda item 7, just to clarify, that language has not changed from the draft that you've seen at the 2 previous meetings. If you recall, we did bring that forward first at the 2nd meeting in July and then at the regular meeting in August. There was no feedback from the board about that particular question of the language, so that one remains as you've seen the last couple of meetings. The next one, agenda item 8, is the one where we presented several options to the board for feedback at our last regular August meeting. So we came back with the more specific purpose language, so the board as a whole preferred that alternative language that you saw at the end of those 4 options at the last meeting. So that has been inserted into the resolution. And secondly, the preference of the board was the 3-year non-recurring option. So just be aware that we took your feedback, shared it with Quarles and Brady, our bond attorneys that Randy referenced before, and they created this resolution based on the feedback you gave at the last meeting. And then 9 is the resolution for the election that basically takes the 2 prior resolutions, the capital one and the revenue limit one, and then provides a resolution for an election. So all 3 of them work together. The first 2 are the individual questions for the capital question and the revenue limit question. The third one is then for the election. Just a couple other items to note. The budget committee and facility committee are meeting next week. So on the agenda for the budget committee, one of the topics will be reviewing the financial plan that the board got a chance to look at in July. There's been, I would call it a significant new piece of information. The state did release that property values statewide are up over 14%. Our financial plan included an estimate of 5%. So we do want to have that discussion with the budget committee next week as far as how we may potentially want to adjust that financial plan that will be shared with the public moving forward in our communication plan. So that will be on the agenda next Monday for the budget committee. And then at the facility committee next Monday, we are going to begin the process of the steps that were discussed with the board previously. Instead of going down the path of a reimbursement resolution, we discussed a path with the board that involved some early commitment to partners, electrical, HVAC, civil engineering, traffic studies, et cetera. And the board had approved up to $100,000 in expenditures. So we will begin that process next Monday with the facility committee. So both of those committees will have follow-up work next Monday from the meeting tonight.
If I could just add, just for clarification, I mean, the 14.7% were the property values. That was the average across the state. We won't receive ours till this fall. So you won't know the actual pieces until we get into the fall. But that's positive news. So as you kind of look at the school funding formula, when your property values go up, it's from a taxation standpoint, that provides positive news for us to be talking about. So I think the conversation Steve wants to have with the budget committee is just how we're going to kind of move that forward, and then what that looks like with some of the dollars that we have in front of you with the referendum.
Any board members have any questions about any of the three that you'd like us to review?
So just the operating referendum, because you've laid out the dates as to when you can increase, then that's telling you it's a 3-year.
Rebecca, would you mind pulling that one up? It's the, if you want to scroll up, and if you, yeah, that one right there. You want to open that? So what Jack is pointing out is this version, so the non-recurring version looks a little different than the recurring versions that you saw, in that they identify the amount. So in year one, it's 1 million. In year two, it's 3 million. Really, it's an additional 2. But because it's non-recurring, what that means is it goes into the revenue limit formula and then it comes out. So on an annual basis, it goes in, and then the board decides whether or not you're going to approve that each year to come back in. So it's written a little differently to show that you can do $1 million more, then it would come out, then the next year it would be 3 million, which is a total of 2 more, and then 6, which is a total of 3 more. So it's just written differently than the recurring ones, because it functions a little bit differently, as opposed to the recurring goes in and can be permanent. This one can go into the formula and then it gets pulled out the next year. So thanks for mentioning that, Jack.
So we need to vote on these 3 and together or one at a time?
One at a time, and they do have to be roll call votes, please.
Okay, thank you. So starting with the capital one, not to exceed 175, I would need a motion for that.
So moved.
Any questions or concerns before we take the roll call? And I have them in alphabetical order, so that's how I'll be calling them. Katie?
Aye.
Judy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Ted?
Aye.
Jack?
Yep.
Mark?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Thank you. And then the second one, number 8, the resolution on the exceed the revenue.
Motion to
Need a
approve.
Motion to approve by Brian,
Second.
second by Mark. Again, roll call. Katie?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Ted?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Mark?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Thank you. And then the third resolution, which kind of ties them together and gives us all that other information. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second. Second by Katie, and again by roll call. Katie?
Aye.
Judy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Ted?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Mark?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Thank you. So moving on from there, we have communication plan on the referendum, possible postcard.
Right, so the first thing that we wanted to bring forward to you, and I think you'll see in board book, and you can bring it up there, Rebecca, it's a postcard that we are looking to send out community-wide. This is really something that just starts to hit the high-level issues of what you've just approved in the resolutions, and reminds people that we will be having a referendum vote on November 8th. So when you kind of go back to what our process was in 2014, when we built the intermediate school and some of the other associated work, I think we had 3 different mailings at that point. We had a postcard that was very similar to this. Then we had some information that came out that had a much more deeper dive into information that we shared with the community. And then I believe we had a final piece that we sent out just prior to the election. So those are all communication pieces that we're in the process of putting together. What we wanted to just get your feedback on this evening is if there's anything that you had feedback on with regards to the postcard. And this is a piece that we've worked on administratively. Andy from EUA has been part of it. Obviously, Annie and Steve have helped with some of the wording. So our first thing that we wanted to look at this evening was just to see if there was any suggestions that you had for the postcard language. But the purpose of this is really just to get the basic information out and to remind people that this is coming and that we will have additional information forthcoming. From what you saw in board book, does anybody have any questions? Okay.
When do you feel that will be mailed?
Annie, I know you've been working on the mailing process. What do you see as the timeline for this hitting the streets?
I think to finalize this week and get that sent out right away.
Yep, this will come right away after the approvals this evening.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of our next step. What you'll see then come to you at the September meeting is we'll start to break out some of the more specific things we'll do community-wise. We already have a few of those things kind of on our docket. We just have to put dates to it, things like presentations to the community. If there's any groups that any of the board want us to reach out to, or if you have groups that you're part of that you'd like to invite us into, we'll make sure that we go out to them. I think I'm already on the docket for Rotary. I have connections with the chamber. We'll look at things like the senior center, and then obviously some other larger community groups, the PTOs, and try to get out to those entities. And then probably be putting out something that any other groups that would like to meet with us that will be open to that. So I think that's part of what our next number of months is going to look like, is seeking those opportunities to get our message out there. At the September board meeting, I'll also share with you, and I'll probably share it ahead of time, is just some of the guidance from the School Board Association and kind of your role as board members and kind of how you can work as far as the communication pieces, so that you're all kind of understanding what that means from a legal standpoint. From our standpoint, Steve and I can never remove ourselves from being school employees, so we're truly just on the, we can't be advocates for it, we can just be information providers. So what we'll send out a piece that we have from the School Board Association to all of you to help clarify that, and if there's questions, we can discuss it at the September meeting. But I think that's really kind of where we're sitting right now. It'll be a pretty busy time period between now and the November timeframe, and our goal is to get in front of as many people and talk to groups and answer questions as we're able to.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I think what we'll do is, if there's no other questions on that, that'll move forward. So you'll be seeing that in probably the next week and a half or so. I'm starting to hit mailboxes. Okay.
Well done.
Well done, yeah, that was great. So the only other item we have is to approve some staff changes for the school year.
So moved.
Second.
And we have had an opportunity to talk to Brian about that, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. And we are ready to adjourn.
Wow.
That's a record. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks for coming.